everyone, and welcome back. I am sorry about that. I'm your friend in the neighborhood Prax, and welcome to the channel. And today we are going to be doing some cooking fun while I chat about things that are interesting unto me at the moment, which is a lot of things about ttrpgs and the streaming of ttrpgs and all of that good stuff. But we have a leek. You can see actually exactly how big this leek is. It is bigger than my cutting board. This is a huge freaking leek. I love Misfits Market. Hashtag not sponsored, but if Misfits wants to sponsor me, I would definitely take the opportunity. Any whites in here? No, that's all just greens. All right. Going in the trash. But, hi everyone. How's it going out there in the internet spaces? It is a Saturday night, and usually we chat books on Saturday nights, but we haven't been doing that for a little bit. Oh, I should get a waste bowl. Oh well. That's it. Hey y'all. This is why you clean your leeks. Because, you know, you clean your leeks. Yes, that's Toby you can hear. He's taking a little rest, chilling out, relaxing, but yeah, clean your leeks really kind of well. So a leek is like an onion, like a giant spring onion, right? And things can get in there, right? A lot of like dirt and schmutz can get in all of these little spaces and holes and all of that good things, and just not good. And occasionally you just have to peel the outer layers like you do an onion, you know? But leeks are slightly sweeter than an onion, and in my opinion, less, what's the word in English? Less acidic. And so they usually, in my opinion, taste a little better. And they are actually a little firmer when you cook them. So they cook up and take more preparations, in my opinion, a little bit better. But I'm going to cut all of these leeks because they're going to need to get washed, because there's just no other way to do it. Hey, I do have a leek in the kitchen. Hey, Scott, welcome in. Scott, perfect timing. You may have noticed, if you were in Simon's Discord, that I have been live tweeting or live commenting my rewatch of Vampire Nightfall, and having a lot of fun doing it, of course, because it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It's a good series. We did a good job with that. But okay, all of this is going in here to get washed so that I can have my fancy tart in a little bit. But lots of fun watching that. I'm gonna switch to the big camera and pivot just a bit so I can still see you. I'm off camera, unfortunately, but I have to watch tonight. And the cutting board, because, you know, I got leek gunk all over it. Yes, always a good time to revisit the family. Particularly, for those who don't know, or haven't seen it, or haven't heard, I ran a Vampire the Masquerade Anniversary Edition game on Wandering DM in 2019. So, years ago. We don't need to talk about how many years ago that is, but to answer your question, 2019. And it was a lot of fun. Berserker Rage in chat, Scott was one of my players in that game. I absolutely loved how that game turned out. Oh, I realized I forgot something, but okay. Salad spinner for the win. There really is no good way to clean a leek. You just gotta clean a leek and hope that it works the best. The best way I've found is to cut it before you clean it. I know some people who are like, no, you clean each individual leaf. I'm like, nah, man, I'm gonna wash them like this. It's easier. But yes, so Scott was in that game as one half of the hashtag Vamp Dads. One half of the fabulous. So it was a great game because it was a game where I had 2 players who had never played Vampire the Masquerade before, and 2 players who had played Vampire the Masquerade before. And that meant that it was a really kind of nice balance. We could introduce the new players as neonates and have the older players be more established vampires and create ourselves a little vamp family. Literally, in this case, because apparently the hashtag Vamp Dads, out there taking care of their kids, their younglings, that are not their childer. I should stress this. All four players chose 4 different clans to represent. Scott was our Ventru. Simon, Wandering DM, was our Gangrel, private detective. The always wonderful and fabulous Xander Slamilton. Alyssa, she was our Toreador. And Quentin, i.e. Thragon, was the most nos who ever nosed. And I mean that literally. Quentin decided, oh, go ahead and lurk away, Pope. Quentin decided that he was going to take every single flaw that he could and just have all the fun with it. You know, he's like, I'm going to have all of the flaws. You want a nos? I will give you a nos. I will give you a nos with Scent of the Grave, creepy feeling, aversion to religious iconography. It got to a point where not even Scott's bonuses as a Ventru helped them if he was there in a social scene, because his negatives to social were just so strong that it impacted the entire coterie. It was hilarious, and I loved every minute of it. But I've been rewatching and considering a lot about how TTRPGs are done, how they're produced, how they're made, how things are, work. Now we have apples. Don't worry, I already washed these apples. I just put them back in the bag because it was the only way I could keep them kind of organized in my life. That's what happens when you pick up the wet spot in the bag. apples. They have apples. But yes, so this ended up being a case of the Vamp Dads and their neonates that they took care of. And I have not finished my rewatch. I'm only on like episode 4 or 5. I should get the link so you could all see it in chat. But yeah, this is the single most useful thing in the world, by the way. Right like that. Means you slice all the apples and you don't have to think about it. But, so I am on the first instance of when both Alyssa and Quentin couldn't play, and so it was the episode that was lovingly called Vamp Dad's Date Night. When your date night is Ventru and a gangrel showing up at the high society party of a La Sombra elder. You know, like you do. Now, it was to their advantage. Chaos to ensue. I mean, to be fair, they did get out of there with very mild chaos. Like, very little things happened. They didn't insult anyone. They were basically you know, fine. Some things that I thought were going to happen didn't end up happening, but that's because they rolled certain ways. But, you know, that's how life happens. But so right now I'm prepping the apples because I'm going to make a tarte tartin. Which, for those of you who don't know, is basically an upside-down apple cake. Apple pie, excuse me. Lemon juice, throw it on. It'll keep them from discoloring and keep the sweetness to an epically appropriate level. Go in and then toss them around a little bit. I prefer, in my apple pies and apple cakes, and all these things apple, to leave the skins on, because I think it tastes better. If you want to peel them, go right ahead. You peel them. But, you know, that's my take. Cinnamon. Because cinnamon. I like a lot of cinnamon. It's getting a lot of cinnamon. Now, if I was being this very traditional tarte tartin, I would just have sliced the apples in basically halves or quarters and laid them out in a pan and cooked them that way so that it's artful when you flip the whole thing over. It is more healthy to leave them on. You are correct. There is more fiber in the skins, also more potassium. Secret weapon. Ground ginger. Just a touch. Just a touch. Makes, you will be, Now, let that sit and be happy, as they like to say. Over here with that. Now, I'm going to start my Leek tart. which I'm basically going to turn into a tarte tatin as well, and I'm quite looking forward to it. So, pan. Butter in a cold pan. Cold butter, cold pan. By the way, this recipe is healthy-ish. Don't worry, the leeks and the apples aren't going in the same thing. But so, I started this rewatch thing because I was feeling nostalgic. And so I am currently Vampire Nightfall is the third series that I've currently been rewatching. I started with a rewatch of Witcher Family of Wraiths, and it was A, a lot of fun, and B, so many feels, and C, the sadness of remembering that that series is going to be incompleted for a number of reasons, and we'll just leave that alone. But also realizing that there are a number of people who I have had the pleasure and opportunity to get to play ttrpgs with in the last 6 or 7 years, depending on how you're counting. And those wonderful people have given me so many opportunities and blessings and all of these things, but at the same time, there are a number of people who, unfortunately, I have not played with in a very long while. COVID happened, a number of things happened in the streaming space for ttrpgs, and because of that, things changed. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to go through and rewatch a bunch of these series, both for nostalgia reasons, but also because I personally think that just like football players should watch film of both themselves and their opponents, if you're an actor or a role player or anyone in that kind of sphere, you should watch film of both yourself and others who you aspire to be like. Leeks into melted butter. Let them saute on medium-low heat. They'll be there for a while. So this actually, what I'm making 2 tarts, and then I'm going to have some lamb steak, and we might get fancy and fun on Twitch. Salt. Not a lot of salt, because this recipe is for a pear, goat cheese, and leek tart that is mwah! So, and there's a lot of salt in the goat cheese. Black pepper, and if you couldn't already tell, I'm an Italian, the third part of the Holy Trinity, garlic powder. Just a touch. Because everything's better with garlic. But you're going to sweat these for a while. So yeah, so watching streams to relearn things, to see how I can improve, to see how other GMs did something. Okay, these are not gonna, those are too green. Let those go for a while. That's gonna be a while. But yeah, Scott says, I love watching others for examples, but it makes me want to do more TTRPGs. Come to the dark side, will you enjoy it? Pope, which Vamp family? The Vamp family I ran or the Vamp family I played in? Because either one I would kind of enjoy. I'd run Mage of the Ascension for the Vamp Dads. But you know, oh, so the Nightfall crew. So if the Vamp Dads and their childer, of whom Auden is favorite child, #confirmed, if I ran Mage of the Ascension for them, you know that a particular NPC would have to show up. Just because. And I will take that moment and run with it. Far, far away. So one of my favorite NPCs that I ever created for a game, I made for Vampire the Masquerade Nightfall. And the character's name is Rebecca Leibowitz. Take a very Jewish mage, ? No spoilers on Rebecca, but she does have some magical abilities. Who's run a small occult shop in Lower East Side of Manhattan for indeterminate amount of time. And now, and has now decided to embraced a certain persona of a Valley girl who's a very particular type of character. Rebecca Leibowitz is one of my favorite NPCs of all time. She would have to show up. If we're running Mage of the Ascension, Rebecca would have entire purpose to exist. I mean, I'll make a note. Hey Scott, this is me officially telling you I'm making a note about running Mage of the Ascension for you and Simon and Alyssa and Quentin. This is a little bit of a low and slow process. You stir constantly, and then you will occasionally put stuff in there. Okay, so what are we doing? I should cut pears. I mean, I loved when we got to play together as players, Scott. But we need to find a GM. Find me a GM. Because right now it's looking like I'm running a lot of games. Which I don't have a problem with. Fully out there in the universe. I'm running a lot of games and I'm enjoying it. There are a couple games I'm actually in the working process of building and planning. Well, you're busy. So right now there's a couple of games that I'm in the middle of building that I think will be very interesting. Plotting a very fun, complicated... Oh, well, thank you, Pope. I appreciate that. Plotting a very interestingly complicated, or not complicated, just a very interesting one-shot for Memorial Day for charity to celebrate and support Fisher House. And I'm wearing my Fisher House Groundbreakers gear today. A, because it's comfy, and B, because we are going to raise a glass and cheers to the Fisher House Foundation because they celebrated on Tuesday with a gala in DC for opening their 100th Fisher House. Salud. Congratulations to them. To be fair, the last time I played as a player with Scott was in an off-stream game of Warhammer Fantasy. That was fun. But I was also watching on this rewatch ways in which expectation of integration with viewers was a thing versus now, and how that has changed, right? There's some interesting changes that have come out recently in the way in which, because a lot of these big stream channels that were, you know, interesting. Post as I can and will Warhammer, but I've experienced Tart and am now mildly obsessed. Heart? Pope, drop the link because I don't know that one. Give me a link, I don't know. But time for some cheese. Everything is better with cheese, right? So this is just a regular plain old log of goat cheese. And it's going right into the leeks. Because goat cheese is good. Life is good. Goat cheese is good. Now, traditionally you would make this with goat cheese, but you make it with, in my Discord. Oh, thank you. Heart beneath the city. Interesting. Always here for dark fantasy. I'm not going to read through all of that right now because it's 226 pages. I would like to point out that I can read a lot and very quickly, but not 226 pages that quickly. Now, traditionally this is made with cream and then you add goat cheese just before you start baking. I personally can't have the cream, so I add the goat cheese directly to the leeks with a little sherry, which is going to thin it out just the same way. And turn it into a very nice sauce. It's going to combine with the butter that we put in there, and the leeks, cheese, sherry, excuse me, and last but not least, fancy stone ground mustard. Just a little. Oh, there's just a little left, so perfect amount. That's going to turn very nice and happy. Basically just want to make it leeks in a cream sauce. Look at that. Very nice, right? Really pretty. Then, because that's all I need for that, I take my bowl. It's the same bowl I was working with earlier. And I put this aside so it can cool all the way. I mean, if you want to see even better, here. Look at that. There we go. But you do need to cool this almost all the way. Otherwise, it will start cooking your pastry before you get the pastry in the oven. You could do the filling a day in advance and then just leave it in the fridge, and then when you're ready to make the pie or galette or tart, however you want to do it, just throw it all together. But right now, we are into step 2. And that step involves me making a tarte tartin. Because tarte tartin is absolutely delicious. If you don't know it. So like I said, oh, pears. I should cut the pears first. I'm going to need those in a hot second. I'll cut pears first. Whatever kind of pears you like. I like red pears. I got red pears. Now, how you choose to slice them is going to be up to you. I'm doing this so I can make it pretty in a minute. But I need a better knife because I need to do the Italian thing. If you don't know how to do this, I'm sorry, your knife skills suck. Speaking of knife skills, if you didn't see, I bought a present for Trooper that I had delivered. Jacques Pepin's Les Techniques, or The Complete Techniques, which is the most recent edition of Les Techniques, which is the one I have, and it's just a perfect one of the, I think, the 3 most important cookbooks to exist. Fanny Farmer, Julia Child's The Art of French Cookery, and Jacques Pepin's Les Techniques. Both Fanny Farmer and Jacques Pepin are going to teach you how to actually cook and what it means to. And Julia Child is going to make you feel better about life when you realize she didn't start cooking until she was 30. And still managed to master all of these techniques. I also know that there are a number of really great Chinese cookbooks out there for specifically Asian, different types of Asian cooking. I'm blanking on which one of those I have. Like, I've got a bunch of those. Yeah. But definitely need a copy of, in my opinion, at least Fanny Farmer and Les Techniques. My cousins swear by the New York Times cookbook and The Joy of Cooking, and it's your choice. But Le Technique is, the complete technique is gonna teach you how to hold a knife, how to spatchcock a chicken. What does it mean when the recipe says braise versus saute versus broil, all of these things, or dice versus chop versus... And it has pictures for every single stage all the way through so you can see exactly what he's talking about. It is much more of a reference manual. I mean, it's a cookbook, but it's also a reference manual. But yes, so I've been thinking about TTRPGs and the way in which TTRPGs are marketed, enjoyed, appreciated, and how those changes came to be about, and what that change, you know, means for a number of people. Now, if I was Trooper, I'd have a whole lot of hard data about this. I don't. I'm just going off of, you know, vibes, man. Appreciate the vibes. You know, with the loss of a number of channels for a variety of reasons, good, bad, or indifferent, your opinion may vary on those factors, a large amount of the audience shifted to other stream personifications, right? Like, I was looking the other day at specifically, you know, who is currently on the front page if you click into the category of either D&D or tabletop role-playing games, right? If you just click on those in Twitch. And a couple of these channels, 90% of them I had never heard of, which is fine. There are an S-load of channels out there. And in actuality, I think Trooper has the numbers of like 14 million streaming channels, I think is the number. Don't quote me on that, because, like I said, ask Trooper, he's got the data. I don't have the data. But one of the things that intrigued me very much about this was very much how obvious it was that, well, the number of channels has increased. The number of viewers has either stagnated or dropped. And part of that's just interest, right? People come in and go through and do what they wish and change around. But I also think that part of it might also have to do with, you know, changes in Twitch process, you know, how Twitch functions, how searchable or unsearchable things are now. For example, you know, I'm watching these streams and, you know, well, back when we were doing these streams, it was, everybody was hosting so that you had more discoverability that way. You had everybody, you could raid more effectively before the raid, you know. There we go. But you also had things like, you know, follows and meant some, you know, and notifications worked a little bit better in my experience. But you have, so it's very interesting to see how these things have changed and the effect they've had on the way people stream, right? There are very few, I can't say none because I haven't looked through all the currently available channels, right? I'm not, but there are currently very few channels that engage with audience engagement anymore for financially affecting the game. I don't, for a variety of reasons. Simon doesn't, Trooper doesn't, right? None of the really big names do. And that was a thing that was really common 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? How many people watched Encounter Roleplay and, you know, Nat 1s and Nat 20s were a thing. Or if you watch Family of Wraiths, the entire campaign changes on a viewer donation that greatly changes the way in which the plot of the game develops. It's cool. It has lots of benefit. I think Greg was a powerhouse because he managed to control that and keep it running. But almost nobody does it anymore. And I don't know, because I watch very particular streams based on when I'm available and, you know, my time of day and what I'm doing, all of those kind of things, right? But, so most of the streams I'm watching are ones that I either know people who are in the games or are on my friends' channels. Like I'm watching Trooper, I'm watching Simon, I'm watching Laugh Love Lindy. If I have time and I am, on, you know, if I'm not streaming the same time they are, and I, you know, can catch it, I'll watch High Shelf Gaming. I watch... So for me, it's a little different, right? I personally support a number of channels that run streams that are not, that I don't always have opportunities to watch just because of when my work schedule is and when they're streaming, right? But I don't know what it means if it's a case the viewership fell off and then individuals stopped doing donations to affect the game, or if they stopped doing donations to affect the game and the viewership fell off. There's correlation, but no causation. Pears. Pretty pears. Lemon juice on the pears to keep them pretty. But it's also interesting to make note because I think a lot of how the belief of player interaction, of viewer interaction with the stream as a means of revenue for the channel affected the way certain GMs approached the way they were running a game. And from there, it's the question of what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And did that affect how they ran their game, what they did? Probably not, like, I mean, it affected what they did, but not necessarily the way in which they, as storytellers, approached telling a story, just how they had to plot for other things that they were doing. So I went back and watched Witcher Family of Wraiths all the way through, up until the cliffhanger ending. Someday we will find out the answer to a number of questions, but I really appreciated being able to play with those people. Some of them I still get to talk to pretty frequently. Some of them I haven't in years just because of the way things have happened and our opportunity to talk. But I was realizing that there are a lot of things that have changed, and I want to see how I can change and improve myself, right? This is all thinking about how I can improve as both a GM and as a player. And thinking about and using those previous streams to do so. So I went back and watched Witcher Family of Wraiths. All the emotional feels. If you've not watched it, it's on, the VODs are on, for fantasy RPG, wouldn't it be the Dragon or the Egg? I mean, possibly. Hey, Time, welcome in. But I was also looking back and going, well, a number of these viewers who, because all the alerts are on these VODs, who are, you know, either resubscribing or donating or whatever, that you knew and interacted with in the chats of these streams, I haven't seen around in a while. For a variety of reasons, I'm sure. But I want to improve myself and focus on making myself a better player. Okay. So. Pan. Now, one of the most important things about Tarte Tartin is butter and sugar. We're making a mess, y'all. Granulated sugar, not confectioner sugar. But le beurre. Where did I? Oh, I cleaned up. That was me being efficient, y'all. I was very efficient. I was so efficient, I cleaned everything up. So. Okay. We start by making not quite a caramel. And I'm going to cheat with the Tarte Tartin and put it in a glass dish, because I think that's going to look prettier in the long run. But where am I? Ah, flour. Hold on a sec. I need the flour. Otherwise, I won't be able to roll out our puff pastry. Okay. Flour. So yeah, so I watched through all of Witcher Family of Wraiths. I had a very fun time watching through all of Witcher Family of Wraiths. Feeling all of those emotions, appreciating how brilliant that cast was, and where that story went. Both Greg is a GM, and all of the other players were involved, from Lindy and, well, you know, I'm going to get covered in flour, y'all. It's fine. You're not going to judge me. Yes, by the way, I store-bought the puff pastry. I can make my own, but why? Toby's over here judging me for alt life, but he's also going to be aware of the fact that I am not, in any way, shape, or form, going to work with. I'm gonna work with store-bought puff pastry, y'all, and there's a reason for it, and that reason is not who wants to live forever, but it's a pain in the butt to make your own. Like, literally, it's the biggest. I've made pie dough. I will make pie dough from here to kingdom come. It is 30 minutes. Yeah, it's a little bit of time consuming because you have to work with it and chill it and all of that. But the actual mechanics in pie dough, so easy. The mechanics involved in puff pastry, I'm good with not. I'm good with just buying it and using store-bought. There is no shame in using store-bought So, yes, so Greg as the GM, Lindy, Josh, JF, and Billy, all fabulously wonderful players, all very giving in a story that was dark. It was dark. We started with a funeral, y'all. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It is absolutely great, wonderful. A wonderful story that unfortunately ended too soon, in my opinion. I wish it hadn't, but it did. Alright. The apple. This, by the way, is my cheat for Tarte Tartin. Start with the pie shell. Buttered. Greased, whatever you want to do with it. Melt butter. Somebody taped the sugar closed. That wasn't helpful, whoever that was. Sugar. Low heat. And yes, I ascribe to the put the sugar into the melted butter way of doing things rather than, melting them jointly because I think it works better. You do you. Need a little more sugar in here because it's... Always start with less than you think you need and add when it comes to making basically caramel sauce for anything. But butter and sugar over a low heat will eventually melt together in the best possible way. But yes, if you have not seen Family of Wraiths, I firmly recommend it. Not the least of which because it was one of my favorite games and one of my favorite characters of all time to get to play. Also, one of my favorite relationships to play. Playing with a bunch of people who really loved both the world and the game that we were playing and the way it started. Now again, this is my cheat for Tarte Tartin. I line, rather than putting it in the pan and sticking the whole pan in the oven, I line I do it in the baking dish. Don't worry, it'll all work, she says, knowing that it works about 87 most of the time. 99% of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And, you have to futz around with stuff, and it takes a little extra to get out. Usually when you haven't greased it well enough. Boop, boop, boop. And I'm making it pretty. You don't have to make it pretty, but I think one of the best parts about Tarte Tartin is the fact that it is inherently, at the end of the day, a pretty apple pie. Because you're thinking about the placement of the apples in the dish as you're doing this, or in the pan if you're doing it on the pan. Periodically take time to stir your, what will hopefully be caramel eventually. Not quite caramel, but butter and sugar and let things emulsify, because they will as we go. But working in as cute a fashion as possible. Yes, I know this is not the traditional way to do tarte tatin. I found it efficient and pretty and fun and a little bit easier on, well, I know the point of tarte tatin is so that you only have one pan and that's the only thing you're cleaning up, but I've found that sometimes trying to get everything out the right way doesn't quite work. Come on, up. You want to go this way, like that, and you want to go like that. Mostly thinking about prettiness, but we'll take it as we get. Faye, welcome in! Welcome in, Raiders. Hope you're having a good day. We're chatting ttrpgs, and I'm making dinner. Well, I'm making dessert right now, but eventually I will actually make dinner. Hello, Raiders. We hope you're having fun. I am your friendly neighborhood Prax. Welcome to the channel. Tonight we are, like I said, making some fun foods while we chat about ttrpgs and thoughts I'm having about what games I want to run and how I want to change things up a little bit, maybe on the channel, and improve things. And yes, time, you're great for it. And if you need to raid and run, Faye, I understand. All right. There we go. So, all in the little pan. Did I mention that the hard part is just being patient enough with the sugar that it will eventually melt. So this is not like a creme caramel, it's just butter and sugar, so it will eventually melt. It's just gonna take a minute. You'd appreciate the snack I made a little while ago, I think, Prax. Just some fresh Mott's tomatoes, some smoked. So basically, you had antipasto. Antipasto is great. Antipasto is fine. Never a problem with antipasto. Yes, now we're in the waiting. Not the best pun in the world, but I give you credit for trying. But yes, it is just sugar and butter, and we're melting sugar and butter and waiting oh so impatiently for it to turn into a nice caramel sauce. We're at the reconstituted phase, which means we're almost there. But you do want to keep it moving, kind of keep it grooving, going from there. But yeah, so Witcher Family of Wraiths, lots of fun, fabulous people, one of my favorite stories of all time, one of my favorite characters of all time. She lives rent-free in the back of my head all the time. And if you haven't watched it, I'm not going to give any spoilers. So go watch it. And then I decided to rewatch another one of my favorite games that unfortunately we got 2 seasons, but we never got a third, just because of scheduling and things that happened, mostly COVID, but also a couple other things that happened. Come on. Melt. You know how they say a watched pot doesn't boil? Watched sugar doesn't melt. I saw it the first time. I'm not going to comment on it the first time because I saw the pun. Faye says, life has been lifing, so I haven't had so much time for RPGs lately, but eventually I'll get around to working on Cultivation Mod for Godbound. I mean, that sounds fun. How is the rest of your reading in preparation for that going, Faye? I'm still sorry about that, Faye. So sorry about that. Yes, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yes, color. Color is what we want. Now the oils are separating, which means we'll start to get more interesting things in the near future. There we go. Now we're getting some color on this sugar. Well, it's separating a little bit more than I wanted, but that's not the end of the world. It just means when I pour it over, it'll do some interesting things. But that's okay. It'll all be happy. It'll all be happy. It'll all be happy. I don't want it to boil. You do have to watch, because it goes from that fine line of like perfect caramel color and texture to burnt really, really quickly. And you don't want burnt, which is why I'm not looking at chat right now. I'm looking at the smell of sugar cooking in my house and my dog looking at me like I got 2 heads. There we go. 30 seconds. Smell of burning of caramelizing sugar. Done. For those of you who don't know, this is the color that you want. See this color? See this dark brown? Hold on, you can't see anything. Ah, crap! That wasn't good. Hold on. Hold please, as I realize I dropped the spoon in the pan of hot molten sugar. And, you know, that was, but, this is kind of, this is the color you want. You can see the extra bubbles from the extra water. real African dish. It's an Ethiopian dish, but it's not spelled that way. And coming into somebody's stream to claim to be racist, to ask them to cook something that they aren't cooking, that's an issue. Now, hot caramel. Into the pan. You can see that it's not really like a caramel sauce, it's just caramelized sugar, and it's starting to cool, so it's spinning. I get little spins of sugar. And now I immediately need to rinse the pan, otherwise by the way, don't try and make caramel sauce in a non-stick pan. Will not work. Is not your friend, will not work. Now this is a silk pat. You do not use a blade on the silk pat. So I'm turning this on its side and cutting around the outside a little bit of the puff pastry. And it can still cut perfectly well by being the backside of the knife, but yeah, don't try and do that with a bladed knife, because with the blade of the knife, because it will cut the silk pat, and the silk pat is silicone and glass, and that would be bad to do. Now I'm crimping. You'll notice that I am crimping inside the pan, not outside, so you can see like that. It's actually inside the edge of the pan, because when I turn it out, it will flip over, hopefully prettily. Oh, you had to go cut an apple because they were starting to turn and I made you hungry for apples? I mean, I'm glad I made you hungry for something healthy and helped you eat something that was in your kitchen. Now, this is where things get interesting. Usually you brush it with egg wash. Not going to do that today, mostly because eggs are too bloody expensive. But there you go. A little extra to darken it on top, and now to the side it goes, so that I can prep my other tart, because while we were doing this, the filling for the goat cheese tart cooled off. Okay. Extra dough, don't need. Okay. Now, rule of thumb when it comes to pie dough or puff pastry, I'm doing okay. Sly, how you doing? How's life going for you? What interesting things have you been doing on the internet? Where's things for you? Now you'll notice the other one I opened all the way. Actually, you can't see anything, so I'm moving that out of the way. The other one I unfolded. This one I'm not, because I want the extra layers. One of the big things about puff pastry is that it gets a lot of its volume from more layers. And if you use store-bought puff pastry, it comes in a sheet a certain size, and it's folded in on itself. And if you want to be lazy, like I do, or more accurately, not make yourself more complicated, which is Well, companies come. So that's a thing that happened. You just go ahead and leave it folded in thirds and roll it out folded in thirds. And that's going to give you more layers. So remember how I said pie is easy? Pie dough is easy. You take Crisco. By the way, best pie dough recipe in existence is the one on the Crisco bars container, right? Like the Nestle, the recipe for Nestle Toll House chocolate chips is on the bag for chocolate chips. Puff pastry is just like Sly says, like croissant dough. It's, instead of having the fat mixed in at the time, it's layers of flour and fat and flour and fat. And it's folds and rotations, and it's a pain in the ass, which is why I'm not doing it. And instead, using store-bought. But, again, store-bought is perfectly fine. It is always perfectly fine. But if you want to add more layers to your dough, take the store-bought one and leave it folded in thirds and just roll it out that way. I didn't do that for the Tarte Tartin because you want a little bit more. You don't want quite so many layers when you flip it over. But with this, I'm putting the layers on the bottom. Oh, I just had to get rid of it. Okay. So, you then, now you can be fancy about this. I usually am not. I am usually very, very basic when it comes to laying in pie dough in a shell. I find my center of my shell. I lay my dough against a well-greased, and you saw me spray it, pie pan, and then you just cut off excess, right? And you want to leave a little bit more than you think you need, because you're always going to move things around. And you want a little bit of space because you're going to put the filling in. I will say that cutting puff pastry like this is always harder than expected because it has a lot, it's very stretchy, it has a lot of fat in it. Sometimes you just got to tear it and not worry about it because this is a very rustic galette. Now, this is where things get interesting. I'm not going to try and crimp it. I am just going to fold it up to give myself a folded up edge, not fancy crimping, because fancy crimping is, you know, not what I'm in the mood for today. I don't want to do it. You do you. What makes you happy? Sometimes fancy crimping makes me happy. Sometimes just folding it up and giving myself a a folded edge. Now, do not forget, particularly when it comes to puff pastry. So there's the Tarte Tartin that's going to go in a second, Sly, and right now this is going to be the Pear, Leek, and goat cheese tart. Prick your frickin' pie. See? Poke it. Particularly do that if any of the filling that you're working with is wet in any way, shape, or form. Because, shocker, you need to let the steam out, otherwise the bottom of the pie is going to be soggy. You do not want Mary Berry judging your pie for a soggy bottom. And if you don't know who Mary Berry is, I don't know that we can be friends. But this is our filling. The sauteed leeks, melted goat cheese, some sherry, salt, pepper, garlic, and stone ground mustard. And that's just going to go right into our pie shell, our prepped shell. And spread it out evenly along the bottom. Look at that. Doesn't that look pretty? That looks really gorgeous. Then you're going to take some leftover goat cheese to add just, you know, a little bit more to what you've already melted in there, and you're just going to crumble it. So it crumbles around, giving little additional spots of flavor. It's going to melt in. You're not really going to notice it, but it'll be there, you know, in spirit. Did I mention that this is healthy-ish, right? It's healthy-ish. I mean, it's got fruit and vegetables in it. All right, now, see, right like that. But then pears. Laying the pears around the outside edge to get a nice rosette going. With this pie. I love doing this pie, like, done this pie for, I've done these as mini individual tarts for, like Thanksgiving, for an appetizer for Thanksgiving, or, you know, just because. When I do these as mini tarts, it's really good because, you know, it comes like perfect kind of single serving lunch kind of thing. Very, very peasant French kind of lunch kind of thing. I probably didn't need all 3 pears, but I can have as many pears as I want because it's my tart. Or I can have as many pears will fit. I can make more fit. But yeah, so thinking about, you know, TTRPGs and how people play them and how things go. Faye is saying, a friend of a friend on Discord I'm in, turns out that it's a big MDZS fan and did a kick-ass Lan Wangji. Oh, Lan Wangji. Look, if we want to talk about characters, you know, leaving us, you know, we're not going to talk about plot, but we could talk a little bit about plot. We want to talk about a character who waited, right? Like, there are a lot of characters in her writing that wait. There's Lan Wangji, and then there's Hui Qian. And you're like, one of them waits 30 years, a human lifetime, or 13 years, excuse me, 13 years. The other is a ghost who waits for his god 800 years. So, you know, there's some overlap there, right? There's some overlap. Look at that. Look at that. Hold on. I'm actually going to switch screens for a second. So you can see how beautiful. Wait, where? There it is. That is. Look at all pretty. Now, now I also take a second because we're gonna put right here, and put a little fresh cracked pepper on the top. Not a lot, just a little. Now, I have 2 pies to go into the oven. It is preheated. And you want to know the biggest secret for preheating? Turn on your convection to preheat. Boop. There we go. That stage is done. This is also empty. Toby's looking at me sad eyes. I only have 2 slices of pear left. Alright, so my question for the audience, while I'm cleaning up a little bit, is bake for 2 hours? No, I'm going to bake for like 30 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer for 35 minutes. Well, it's already, I mean, that's the thing is, right? So like you don't want to cook it's like the apples are almost already cooked and the filling is already cooked. So you're just cooking the puff pastry, and I've got it at 375. So that'll, 40 minutes sometimes, depending on how things go. I also run, I know this is going to sound very technical. I run with the theory, because I'm standing here, that I will know when it's done because I'm going to smell it. Right, so like we already sauteed the leeks in the goat cheese. And then we, the apple, the caramel in the apples is already cooked. May have gone just a touch over, but you know what? I'm not going to care. So my question for the audience while I clean up for a little bit is, yeah, the nose often knows. I mean, yeah, exactly. What kinds of things do you want? What kind of games do you want to watch on the channel? And he got that from Toucan Sam. I mean, Toucan Sam is always best. And I am going to put this on the Be Right Back and probably run the ad break for a hot second while I put some stuff in the thing. But think about that question. I'll be right back, everybody. everyone. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're refreshed, stretched, bio, did all of those things. I believe the ad break ended. Yes, the ad break is over. All of that good stuff. So, dinner. Like, dinner. Tart. Good. Tarte Tartin. Dessert. Dinner. Lamb shank steaks. Lamb shank steaks, which are $7.99 a pound, and therefore these two steaks, which are very thin. You can actually see how thin they are. They're like very, very thin. They are $5. So, I can't eat beef anymore. But also, at the end of the day, this is almost cheaper than a lot of the fancy cuts of steak. Salt. Black pepper. So we're kind of going to do this like an au poivre. We're going to do this like an au poivre. You'll be real impressed. Don't forget to do both sides. A little bit of fat separation, but that's okay. These will, because of how thin they are, cook very quickly. Okay, y'all? It's going to cook real quick. Salt and pepper both sides. Like I said, seasoning is important. Also, making sure that the meat you're cooking is going to be at room temperature, also really kind of important. Now, stainless steel pan will be very important in a second for why it should be a stainless steel pan. Do not do caramel in non-stick or in your cast iron. Do it in your stainless steel. But pan. Always make sure that you can hold your pan easily and get a good swing on it. If you're swinging for your pan for a variety of reasons that you might necessarily need to swing for your pan, don't choke up on it. Keep it down here. Hot is better. Cold pan. Cold butter. Always. Pope says, I love seeing your experimental stuff and your exceptional World of Darkness stories. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I like running World of Darkness. It's one of my favorite kind of things. I also like playing World of Darkness. Duh. Medium heat. Not too high. Medium heat. Now, Maillard reaction means that you could do this in a stainless steel pan without the butter as a non-stick, but you're going to need the butter for other applications later in the process, so use the butter already. Medium is like a 4 setting. So sly, it depends how high do the numbers on your burners go. Is it like a 1 to 8, or is it a 1 to 10? Is it a 1 to 5? Like, just the medium of whatever those are, right? So a 6, yeah, it'd be between a 3 and a 4, depending on what your burner setting is. Again, everyone's stove and kitchen is going to be different. And that is, at the end of the day, the most important thing to remember. You'll also see that there's lots of nice marbling on these. It's going to taste really yummy. Fat is flavor. Fat is your friend. Okay? Okay. Glad we had this chat. Don't rush things. Let it happen. You know? Let it happen as it'll happen. We've got flour on the floor. That's what's failing things. I am planning an experimental thing, but I have to wait for certain people to be available for that particular experimental thing. I'm hoping that another experiment that I proposed gets accepted by a bunch of people. And of course, just because I rewatched Witcher Family of Wraiths, I'm feeling and then rewatched, after I watched Witcher Family of Wraiths, I rewatched The Search for Anders. Because there are a lot of feels that come out of Witcher. A lot of feels that come out of Witcher. And, you know, it's Witcher. A dark and depressing and really complex family story. But I needed something a little more lighthearted. Remembering then, of course, how Search for Anders ends, and you're like, well, it started lighthearted. And then you get to the end of season 2, and it's not lighthearted anymore. Let your butter melt all of the way, okay? Butter all the way melted. Don't skip on the melting of the butter step. And if you find melted sugar anywhere in your kitchen, wipe it up as quickly as possible so it doesn't stick to life. It's okay. You want to come out? Come out. Toby wants to come out. He's going to come chill with us for a second. Or not. He's just going to wander around. Okay. Tongs. But I have an even better set of tongs for this purpose and application. Flat tongs is a flat piece of meat. I take the flat tongs for the piece of meat. Now, stovetop, melted butter, laying away from you into the butter so you don't splash. Now this is only going to take a couple minutes aside at most, which means I need to prep for the exciting bit. We gonna have some fun on Twitch tonight. Okay. Not a lot. These are very thin steaks. Less than 1/4 cup for what I'm going to be doing for this application. However, I need to make sure everything is ready. So, please hold while I reorient all of you in the live in the moment. Hi, I'm still here. You can kind of see me. Tilt that up a little bit. You're going to see my messy counter. You're going to deal with my messy counter for a hot second because I'm going to do... Nope. Gonna do a thing. because this application must be done over the sink. Safety first, everyone. I mean that. Also, make sure you don't have anything that's, you know, silicone easily accessible for reasons. Oh, Sly, we're gonna do a little bit more than just boozing it up. Like I said, 3 minutes, basically 3 minutes aside, maybe a little bit less. It will continue cooking because what we're gonna do is gonna have a whole lot of fun. Safety first. Okay? Okay. Now, when it looks like it's kind of, here's the thing about browning or cooking meat. It will tell you when it's ready to flip when it moves by itself without you having to scrape it up. We are getting some pretty color on this lamb steak. So, how y'all doing? Life working for you? Sticking stuff in the dishwasher. Switching scenes, because that's going to happen in a second. And yeah, you'll be able to see. Yeah, you will. There we go. You'll be able to see even more that way as I play with my multicam setup. Okay. Also, I don't have it right now, it's fine. Okay. But, okay, like I said, 3 minutes, roughly 3 minutes total, 2 minutes, you know, a minute and a half, 2 minutes aside. When it comes up cleanly, now, next step, only do this under supervision on your sink and if you are over the age of 18 or 21 because you need to be able to drink. Turn off your burner. Take your meat from your burner over your sink, holding it here. Yeah. Okay. Take your brandy. Pour it into your thing. Let it steam for 30 seconds. Hi, Toby. And let the flames have fun. Shake it a little bit to make sure you get all of it cooked off. You will know when you're done when you stop shaking and the flames have died out. Like that. No more flames. Put it back on the heat, on the burner, and put your lighter away. And do not leave do not leave your lighter, okay, on near the cup that had the brandy in it, right? That's not a good idea. So, yes, flambe. Now, you're going to take your steaks out. We're going to just put the tongs and let them rest on a platter for a moment. Leaving all of the wonderful juices because we're going to make a beautiful pan sauce. Look at how pretty those look. Right? Those look pretty. Perfect. To this, we are going to add, oh no, I took that out already. Turn your heat back on. Again on medium. You're going to add, I prefer low sodium veggie broth. I think it adds a little flavor. Got your veggie broth. And again, only in stainless steel or cast iron. Then the less fancy stone ground mustard because we used up the other one. But some stone ground low sodium broth is best. You add just a squirt. You add so much salt to everything else, right? Like, that's the thing. You season all the way through, but, and I'm fully agreeing. Salt as you go, salt flavor as you go, address flavors as you go. But one of the things that people forget is there are people who have, you know, for a variety of reasons, you know, like my father, he's got high blood pressure and hypertension. We lose low sodium all over the place. Not the least of which because he's just a little Irish and it doesn't matter how salty something is, if it ends up on the table, it will add more salt to it. And now we're just going to simmer this. If you're someone who can have it, this is the point at which you add a little heavy cream. I can't. But we're going to, okay, Toby, okay. Okay, Toby. Okay. We're going to let this low simmer for a little bit to reduce. And I'm sorry to do this to you all, but I'm going to run. I need to put you on Be Back Soon because I need to run the puppy out. Toby is most insistent that he gets to go out right now. So, we are going to go on a short break. I'll probably run a short ad while it's there. Take your time, refresh, and I'll be right back. And we're back. Toby had to go out, and I apologize that it took so long, but at the end of the day, Toby had to go out. Therefore, it's all about him. Okay, now, I left the sauce to reduce because it's not going to do anything except reduce while we're waiting. And so it reduced quite nicely. This is the point that if you personally can have cream in your sauce, you can add cream to the sauce. But I think it looks pretty dang good just like this. I can't do cream, so. And for people who want to make this lower fat, now you take the steaks that have rested for a bit, put them back into the sauce, and let them go on low for another minute and a half, 2 minutes. You'll know when they're done. Now, I personally prefer chef medium when it comes to my belief. Oh, how was meeting Bonnie's boyfriend? How was dinner, I guess I should ask. But we're glad you came in. So yeah, let the steaks finish in the sauce. Toby's giving me such a look right now. He is such a... Look, in some cases he's really a pit bull because he's judgy. My dog Judgy. He also pouty. It's okay. We love him anyways. Now there are two ways you can check the doneness on your meat. There is the old-fashioned way, which is about how you use the palm of your hand and the pressure response, you know, is going to tell you what you should look for, you know, pushback on. And there's the fancy way of a digital read thermometer, right? And I personally really like this one. This is my favorite. Has a full, you know, digital readout. You can change it from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Backlit. It turns on and off when you open it. Nice, easy to clean metal probe. It's magnetic, so when it's summer and I'm doing stuff on the grill, it can just go right on the surface of the grill, whatever. It also has the second most important tool, a bottle opener for when it is necessary to do so. But time for a last flip on the steaks in the sauce. Yep. I personally prefer medium rare to medium when it comes to lamb. You know, you're looking for like 135, 140 internal. Touch test for doneness is better, no batteries needed. I'm not gonna lie, it is also better, but there are some times that you're like, we get these, not these, because these are very, very thin and I could have done it with the touch test with that. But I was showing it off. But when it comes to so Costco has some of the best prices on meat, bar none. But they also have one of my favorite things. They're these lamb chop T-bones. And they're these little lamb chop T-bones. They're like 2.5, 3 inches long, but about like 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. And they come in a pack of, thank you. They come in a pack of 8 or 10 depending on what they're doing, and they're usually about $5 a pound. Okay? So turn off the burner, take our sauce, and, you know, pour over the sauce. There you go. Look at that. Beautiful, right? So, but what would a fine dinner by oneself be without a fine vintage? So yeah, so they make these T-bones, absolutely perfect, and because of how thick they are, I'll use a digital thermometer for those. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for hanging out while I made dinner. Oh, that's very nice. Château Frais, Lambert, Bordeaux Supérieur, Grand Vin de Bordeaux, 90% Merlot and 10% Cab. Now I'm going to be a heathen and put an ice cube in my wine. And the reason is, I like it actual cellar temperature. Cellar temperature, by the way, room temperature. When they talk about room temperature, they're talking about a room temperature in the cellar of a French chateau, which is between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So I put a single ice cube in to bring it to, instead of room temperature of 70 degrees, down to a more comfortable temperature. But still absolutely delicious. So, okay, Google, how much time is left?
You've got 3 minutes and 15 seconds to go.
Dang, I'm good at this. Steaks will finish rusting by that point, and I can take out everything else. The thing about wine and ice cubes is that the ice will dilute the wine, in theory. And that's true if you're putting like a giant handful of ice in it. And it can be that you can drink too quickly. But for something like this, where it's just a single ice cube enough to bring it down from the room temperature of a kitchen in a, like, the heat is still on in the house, the oven is on, and it's hot. So the room temperature is adjusted. I could have also taken this wine, which has been breathing for 3 hours at this point, and stuck it in the fridge. Hawkeye says, wouldn't know since I don't drink. That's fair. It's one of those things, I never judge anyone who doesn't drink. Dilution makes no difference if you drink the entire glass, so salud, line. This is me encouraging you all to drink responsibly, and don't drink unless you're over the if you're under the drinking age of your country of origin, which in the United States is 21. There you go. Toby is glaring at me. But, you know, you're okay. You're okay. It's bedtime. Alright. I'm going to clean up a little bit. And because we were talking about ttrpgs and ones I'm running and the rewatch I'm doing, I was talking about rewatching also The Search for Anders, which, y'all, if you have not watched The Thirsty Crew, I almost feel sorry for Tanya for what we did in that game, but not because she enjoyed it. to kind of follow is wash your pans while they're still hot. No, the search for Anders was the Dragon Age game that Tanya, Cypher of Tear, ran on Simon's channel. It was me. The players were me, Eugenio DM Jazzy Hands, Kelly the Opera Geek, and Simon Wandering DM, and Andrew. And then we also added another player, but we don't need to deal with him because he's not involved anymore. No, the vampire game that I ran was Vampire Nightfall. I was talking about that earlier too. That is the Vamp Dads. Okay, Google, turn off. Yes, indeedy. These are going to look really pretty. That is such a useful tool. Come on. Where's my push me pull you? Here's my push me pull you. Also, if you can find a push me pull you, get it. It's absolutely wonderful. As a kitchen tool. See, it has a hook part for when you pull the oven rack out, and the little notch to push it back in, so you don't burn your hands touching something that is hot, because that's a bad thing. But let me move this out of the way. And show you the piece de resistance, what we worked so hard for all evening. Yeah, Hawk, if you make one of those, I guarantee, you want it to be like an oven safe wood and all of that kind of stuff that can go up to a high temperature, and whatever you're thinking about. But first step, let me show you off this beauty. This is the Pear goat cheese and Leek tart that we made look pretty, right? That's so pretty. She pretty. Lots of bubbling cheese. Now this is gonna have to sit, right? Like, this is not something you eat right away. You let this sit and cool a little bit. But it's gonna be oh so pretty when it's done, when it's cool. And then we've got the Tarte Tartin. Now, hold your applause until the end. Let us see. Now you let it wait, and I made a giant mess, but that's why I put the cutting board here, and I put it on top of the muffin. So that I could do that. Ain't that pretty? And then promptly put it in the sink with hot water to get any of the caramel, sugar that didn't come off right away off. But that is a thing of beauty. Isn't it? She's pretty. I'm going to take pictures and post them in the on the Instagram and the Discord. But yeah, thank you for hanging out while I made fancy dinner, for one. I mean, I might. It's not a lot, actually. It's just a little bit, and there's a lot of caramel sauce in this. I personally don't feel a need to get even more sugar, but you know, you do you. Gotta make it bigger, less of a mess. Making less of a mess. Making less of a mess. Okay, I'll put these down here so I can put it on there and then clean that up. But that needs to chill a little bit. That needs to chill a little bit. But that's why we do things like this in a way we can clean up easy. Because also, Pyrex, your friend, and mine. Hold on a sec. That's what the problem is. Somebody lowered the rack. Okay, there we go. I was like, why is this hitting on the top of the rack? It shouldn't. Oh, it's because somebody lowered it. So, thank you very much, all. I hope you had a pleasant evening. I'm thinking about things that I want to do. And what I want to go next. But tomorrow, we are going to continue our campaign. Thank you, everybody. Tomorrow we're going to continue our campaign of Greyhawk. Somebody had an alignment change. And there's a dragon! You know. Greyhawk problems. We'll see if they survive the dragon. We're starting the dragon fight with the paladin unconscious. And everybody took damage. Next cooking session. But that'll be tomorrow, Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm also working on a couple things that should be coming to be announced soon-ish. And if you want to check out any of the streams that I was talking about, hold on a sec. Let me do this. First up, let me put some links in chat for you all. Playlists. Thank you, Simon, for making it nice and easy for putting playlists together. Here. So the Dragon Age. Gonna copy. This is the Dragon Age, the Search for Anders, and be prepared for the Thirsty Crew to both make you appreciate fun and romance and drama, but also cut your heart out. Lots of laughs, and then some tears. And if we want to see the Vamp Dads, the Vampire the Masquerade Nightfall, with the most nost who ever nost, and the wonderful Berserker Rage who's in chat right now, who played one half of the Vamp Dads. That's that one. And if you really want to feel some emotions, just lots of emotions, you can see my arm, sorry about that. You need to watch the Witcher Family of Wraiths playlist. We apologize that it ends abruptly on a cliffhanger, but such was the way the game ended. There you go. Some things to keep up with what I'm rewatching. I am rewatching, I'm on episode 4 of the, my rewatch of Vampire Nightfall. The Vamp Dads went on a date. They had some fun, but we'll see what happens next. I know what happens next. I was there. I remember. But yeah, I think this was a lot of fun. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Let us see if there is anybody we can raid. At the moment, there is anybody up that we can raid that would appreciate. No one is up at the moment. Sadness. So we'll just end it there for tonight, and we will see you all. I'll see you all tomorrow. Come hang out. I'm sure that they will survive maybe their dragon problem and or their other interesting things. But night, everybody. And if you want to see what I run, all of that's on my YouTube, so you can check it out there. Also, there's a new merch link. I'll put it in the chat there. There's some interesting merch that's there. Just saying, there's some interesting stuff. But thank you all again, and have yourselves a great night.